5, ready?
I grew up in Mount Clemens.
Macomb County is the place that 4 generations of my family have called home.
Oh, you got another one.
Oh, yeah.
You got this, Daddy. You know it's a hit if Twan made it.
Oh, yeah. Open the doors, we want the whole town in. See that blank space right, Rhonda Powell in.
All right.
Woosah.
What's up, everybody? It's your man's Ray Bands, that nerd from the burb, and we're back with another exclusive Zone Talk. Today is pretty unique. We're here out on location, out in Mount Clemens, downtown Mount Clemens. Some of you may know the place, been living around the area, I don't know, but this is a great town that's been built up, built down, all kinds of things are happening around town. But we're here with a very unique special guest that definitely has a perspective on today's community, definitely has a voice in today's social dynamics. And what we wanted to do is give you all an opportunity as the listeners to kind of tap in and find out more about Rhonda Powell, a person who has definitely been well known to the neighbors in the area, pillar around this town. And we want to make sure that, you know, we give her an opportunity to say what she needs to say in regards to the path that she's been going and the legacy that she's leaving. So without further ado, let's get into it. Miss Rhonda.
How are you?
I'm well. If you could do us all a big, huge favor, ma'am, and just introduce yourself to our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. My name is Rhonda Powell, and I am a 4th generation resident of Macomb County, born and raised right here in Mount Clemens. And I'm also a candidate in Michigan's 10th congressional district. I'm a write-in candidate in this election. So
Okay.
A lot of information we need to get to folks.
Well, some of our viewers may not even have a understanding of the structure or the dynamic that you are putting yourself in. So break down to us what it is that you're pertaining to, that you're running for, or what that means, you know, the position.
Yes. So I am running for the 10th congressional district. And in 2020, well, some folks might be familiar with, every 10 years we go through redistricting right after the census is done. So a few years ago is when our district changed, our congressional district changed, and that made the 10th congressional district the most diverse district Macomb County has ever had.
When you talk about that district, where does that parameter, or what does that surround? What all areas are you talking about?
So there are 16 municipalities and about 770,000 residents that live within the district. So it is primarily every municipality, every city, township from Hall Road down to 8 Mile, doesn't cross 8 Mile, but up to 8 Mile. And then when you go to a little bit more north, it is from Macomb Township all the way over to Rochester Hills.
Oh,
So
wow.
2 cities in Oakland County is Rochester Hills is the new 10th congressional district.
The new 10th. What were they before?
It was probably we used to be in the 9th district, congressional district, and it was a pretty even split between Macomb and Oakland. So definitely they shuffled the deck a little bit after, after this recent census. But being born and raised here, and so much of my professional career being done here in specifically Macomb County, Metro Detroit area, and the state, I know that this is the most diverse district. Our demographics have completely shifted.
Completely. I've noticed that myself.
Absolutely. And, to me, we have waited, we've been patient, we've done a lot of voting in the past, still haven't really had representation. So that's why I'm running in this race, is because it's our time for representation.
Right on. What would the job title be if you were elected You know, what are the people they're electing you as the
U.S. House of Representative. So
Okay.
it would be the official title would be U.S. 10th Congressional House Representative.
and those duties, like what would
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know and I'm speaking this so that the
Yes.
non-understand, they don't even care about it.
Yes.
They have to kind of understand what
Mm-hmm.
representation, but that position, what does it handle? What does it
Mm-hmm.
oversee or take on?
So I'll put it this way: there's local, there's state, and then there's federal. So the local folks are usually at the city. You know, maybe your city commissioner. You might have a mayor or just a city council. At the state level, we have our state House and Senate representatives, and then the governor is the executive. Then at the federal level, we have U.S. House representatives and U.S. Senate senators. Then we have the president. So at every level, there's those three. There is the executive, judicial, and the executive, judicial, and then the legislative branch. So it looks differently at each level, but pretty much the role is the same. And for U.S. representatives, it is to make sure that the resources that are in Congress as a result of all of us paying, so whether you vote or not, you're paying taxes.
Right.
So somebody's making decisions. So making sure that those resources that get to the federal government, that this boundary I described in the 10th Congressional District, that we get a portion of that, and even within that district, that it is equitably distributed, which it has not been.
Okay, so when you talk in that we form, a lot of people may not understand where your we is or who you're referring to. So when you think on the lines of resources being provided, and you're saying we, is there a demographic or area that completely has been missed over the time period that it's just like blatantly, or is this something that of a personal interest that you've seen, or what are you saying when you say the we thing here?
Resources? Well, when I look at the easiest way is to follow the money. Who has the best parks? Who has the best roads? Who has the best schools? That's where the resources are going.
I see.
So even though a lot of education is based in the state, it's legislated, here in the state, and then it comes down locally, there's still a portion of that, like early childhood education. In particular, I am a product of Macomb County Head Start. So that Head Start program I was in as a kid, I was fortunate when I worked for Macomb County and ran the Community Action Agency. I was very fortunate to have that program under me.
Okay, well, talk to me about that program.
But it's a federally funded program.
Right. When being in a program like that, you generally build sort of a team around you. Is that where you started to kind of funnel things into saying, hey, these aspects or areas, I've now seen them. Let me formulate the right kind of people around me to kind of attack. Is that where you started noticing?
Absolutely. Everything from a leadership perspective starts with the type of team that you put around you. And for candidates, you look at who's in their team now. Is their team diverse? Do you feel like the team that they have is a representation of you in your community right now? It doesn't change once you get elected.
No.
So for me, every team I've ever had, I've been an executive director for multiple organizations and departments in government. I ran a homeless shelter, worked at the state level for the Office of Services to the Aging as the deputy director. And I'm always extremely intentional about the people that I put around me, because diversity is not just, it's not something that we do just for optics.
Right. People like to just say, oh, we look good doing it, but
exactly. But
more.
You can have a diverse group of people around you that have zero say-so. You know what I mean? So when you really see, when you know that diversity and inclusion, you know, diversity, as I say, it just happens.
Yeah.
That it doesn't need our permission. Diversity just happens. But how are folks included? The way that you've done that and how what your track record says, for me, all of my teams have been extremely diverse and very intentionally diverse, not just, you know, ethnically or racially diverse, but because people come from different environments. They come from different experiences. And that's important because we're talking about serving a large group of folks. And you know, I say a lot of time, if I have to be the smartest person in every room, we're all in trouble.
I know that's right. You definitely have to have somebody that, you know, foresees or can elaborate on your vision. That way you can clearly make sure that it's aligning with what you're doing. The thing about you that I'm discovering is, from what I see, you're very young looking. Okay. So when you talk about getting into this role, hearing the tenure that you have, positions you maintain, at this point, are you happy with the turnout that you've put on in life? Are you okay with the path that you've been leading? Is this been going down the way you've been planning it? You know, with any of the negatives, but as well as the positives, like, are you doing what you truly been set out for?
I can say that I am doing the work that I've been called to do. When I was younger, I always thought I would be an attorney, and that would be after an illustrious career as the first female Globetrotter. Neither one of those happened. But, you know, my grandfather is by far, he was by far the most influential person in my life. I spent so much time with him, and he was a local bishop. So we were in church all the time. But what I noticed about him was he was so deliberate in how he treated people. He handled people with white gloves. And he used to tell me, you know, you take care of people and God will take care of you. But, you know, I noticed just the way people responded to him and how respectful he was. And he took that very seriously. He told me and instilled in all of us, leave people better off than you found them, or leave them alone.
Duly quoted.
Yeah.
What's your fondest memory about being, you know, at that time in life of your grandfather, and then in the town? What was going on in the time like that where you were learning from your parents like that and grandparents? What was going on in the town?
Well, you know, Mount Clemens was an area to me, I mean, with the church being right here, the fondest memory would be hard to pick, but I'll have to say, walking from the church to in between services, because we were definitely there all day. So in between services, my grandfather would walk to the local grocery store and just go pick up donuts or something.
It wouldn't be
in
Farmer
between.
Jack or nothing like that.
Farmer Jack.
Woo!
Okay,
Shout out to Farmer Jack.
Farmer Jack. So what I remember is the way that people responded to my grandfather. He deliberately would walk because he didn't want to be seen as somebody that was always going by the people and never, you know, willing to talk and interact with people, whether they went to his church or not.
Yeah.
So seeing people that I knew for a fact, where I was old enough to know that, you know, you probably were just coming off of enjoying last night, I'll say. But when they saw him walking, they would stand up straight and, you know, how you doing, Reverend O'Neill? You know, because they had that much respect for him.
How does that respect? Because when I've talked to some people who have prominent family members, right? So their thing is you don't do nothing to embarrass your folks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
With you, were you able to live sort of like a carefree kind of a lifestyle?
Oh, absolutely. I broke all the rules.
Sometimes we gotta, let them know we're growing.
Exactly. But, even in that, I never felt like, my family didn't love me. They gave me that, they knew I had to walk my own path, and that was important because you got to have something to come back to.
Right.
And if you cut off that bridge to our youth, then what are they coming back to, So I'm just a firm believer that what you put in it doesn't go anywhere. I'm an example of that those things that are instilled in us when we were young, unless you do something to sever that tie, yeah, it's there.
Definitely. Check it out, folks, man. We're going to take a quick break, man. Give Miss Powell a chance to woosah and collect her thoughts. You guys stay tuned, man. It's your man's Ray Bands, that nerd for the burb. Y'all keep it locked. We'll be right back.
They raise the rent to all the housing. They don't want to hear our voice, so we gon' scream it the loudest. We want somebody to have our back. Rhonda will. They tried to kick her to the curb. It then got real. We standing up, speaking loud. We cannot chill. We standing up, speaking loud. We cannot chill. She trying to make a change. Let's help her right now. We got your back. Town Rhonda, hold it down. If you want to see change right now, in that blank space, right, Rhonda Powell. Open the doors, we want the whole town in. See that blank space, right, Rhonda Powell in. They raise the rent to all the housing. They don't want to hear our voice.
Woo. All right, folks, we're back. I hope you guys enjoy that good music, good sounds. This your man's Ray Bands, that nerd from the burb, and we're here downtown Mount Clemens at Gumbo's. Gumbo's, if you haven't been to Gumbo's, come on down, man. They got some really, really, really nice food. Is that my phone? Is that ringing? Oh, that ain't my phone.
No, I don't think so.
Well, we can hear it. Don't worry. We're out here, folks. We're here with, like I said, Miss Rhonda Powell, and I think things are going pretty well so far. Let's get back to it. Miss Powell, a native of Mount Clemens that you are, I heard you say that you were aspirations of a globetrotter. Mm-hmm. So tell me about this town. And my era coming up in here, it was a basketball town. You know, this town has always been slapping with talented people who come across that. So when you think about the city and the sports and the youth like that, in your opinion, what's missing in here to help necessarily bring these students, bring that talent awareness, or to feed into it? Mm-hmm. What's missing around here like that?
I think what I have noticed over the years is the lack of investment in our youth, because when I went to Mount Clemens High School was a Class A school.
I remember. And,
I remember probably 1985, we had the top wrestler in the state. The men's basketball team went to the Final Four. The women's basketball team was doing well.
Very well.
I think the volleyball team was like the district champs in that. And, but you saw just everybody was bought in. And I think in more blue-collar towns like Mount Clemens, then you just got a lot of hardworking people. So sports is a core. It's something that really brought people together.
Right.
And so with the investment that we saw into the schools and that, it really, our Clintondale, the Clintondale Mount Clemens game, it was standing room only, whether it was basketball or football or whatever. Those are the things that kind of knitted the community together. Mount Clemens has also been much like, the Quinn Road area in Clinton Township. It was always diverse from my perspective. And I grew up in public housing with my mom. My mom, single mom, and we were extremely close with extended family members. But I share all the time that growing up in public housing, it was the most diverse place in Macomb County. So
Let me ask you this, because we talk about the public houses a lot. I guess I didn't notice this until I was an adult, more or less than anything. Macomb County, where are all of the low income housing? It appears that the only low income housing is only in Mount Clemens, like that, and then Clinton Township, that side of 15. Is that a true statement?
it is not. No, there's public housing, and what I think some things kind of morphed over the years as Macomb County started to be more developed. Because years ago, I mean, it was a lot of farmland, you know. So in the 80s, for sure, we saw it in the 80s. We really started to see more development, housing development being built.
It seems like that's kind of slowing down over in the Mount Clemens area.
It slowed down. Well, Mount Clemens is pretty much landlocked.
What does that mean?
So the boundaries of the city, there's not a lot of places, a lot more land that's just vacant where you can build new housing complexes. I mean, there's some spots, but ironically, in the late 80s, Mount Clemens actually annexed off, which I'll say is a fancy word for just saying it sold off part of it to Clinton Township. When I was growing up, like where I grew up in the Colchesters.
Right.
And I don't know what it's called now. It's always going to be. It's always
called
gonna
the panic zone right
now. It's always going to be the Colchesters. But back then, that was Mount Clemens.
That's Clinton.
Today, it's Clinton Township.
Right at Joy, right?
Right.
At that same, what is that? The Salvation Army thing. That housing.
That's where I went to elementary school.
That was elementary school?
That was Christian Clemens Elementary School when I was coming up.
Wow.
And so that's what I mean. Tie it back to those investments. Because then we could walk right across the street and go to school.
Make it easy lifestyle for you, you know?
Like most families,
Yeah.
you have a school right in the neighborhood. But if you notice, in certain communities, our schools are the first ones to close. And so then our children are being bused further away. So what happens now, if you're with public housing, it's a high likelihood that everyone there probably doesn't have transportation. So now what happens if I miss the bus?
You're going to say that I missed school. You're going
Exactly.
to add it up.
Because I can no longer just walk across the street and get to school. Even if I'm late, I can get there. But, we're not sending elementary kids across town,
No, I wouldn't.
Exactly. So those are some of the challenges when you look at how resources are distributed locally, because a great deal of those resources, some comes from the federal government, and the federal government has to do a much better job of making sure that the resources that are allotted for each state, typically it goes to the state, and then from the state, it goes to our cities like Mount Clemens or Clinton Township. But the federal government can put a whole lot more parameters on how these funds are used.
Right. That'd be the thing.
Yeah.
So with poor representation, then there's really no real identifying ideas. Has it been an uphill battle getting into these officers or officials and expressing these points and values, or talking to them about the disparities that might be facing the town that you once grew up in? Has it been much of a struggle to sit down and have those roundtable meetings?
I think we have a lot of people who sit and listen, but have no intention of doing anything differently than what they're doing. And offering a few crumbs to a community, I'm not interested. I understand municipal finance, and I understand that, you know, the budget tells where your priorities lie, no matter what's coming out of your mouth.
I can attest to that. Researching some budgets in a district, you assume something is there, but then when you go talking to them, they without knowing what you're aware of, they're already telling you where their interest lies.
Exactly.
So I definitely feel you on that. So let's dive into what Rhonda Powell has in her mind, the direction for leadership in 2024. The last election was what, 14, 15, something like that you said?
2022.
2022. Okay, the last session.
The governor. So that's when we reelected the governor in 2022.
Okay, reelected it. So now with 2024, let's talk about the campaigning of Rhonda Powell and what it is that Rhonda Powell has a vision to see done. Okay, because when you step into this role, people are basically giving you all of their hey, and then you go represent. What have you been faced with, or even if it's backlash, for speaking about the values of those that's pouring into you, saying, hey, who do we share this with? We just can't suck it up and just, you know, they're sharing with you. So you have a sense of responsibility, accountability to bring those forward. So talk to me about the extremities that go into how you take an issue and then bring it to the table.
So I'll say that people reach out to me. I already do constituent services, you know, not being an elected official, because when just the work that I've done, people will reach out to me when they have issues in the community. You know, I had folks reaching out to me a month or so ago in high school graduations that around the county. Oh, my daughter is in a school and they just told her she's a half credit short to graduate. And they, you know, can you help me? Because they're not going to let her walk.
What would that person have to talk to you about that for?
Well, exactly. You know, but it is when people don't feel like their voice is being heard, or they don't feel like they are connected to folks who say that they represent them. They're in the job to represent them, but people often feel more comfortable with reaching out to me. And I go to the mat when it comes to, especially with kids, our youth, you know, and I'll pick up the phone. I have a lot of relationships in schools all over. You know, I used to run a homeless shelter. I ran the Community Action Agency, which deals with Head Start, senior services, the Meals on Wheels program, rent and utility assistant, community development. So a vast knowledge of government resources and community resources. I partner with the Macomb County Ministerial Alliance, whoever is needed to make sure we can get to people and make sure they know, no, you're not fighting this alone. Right. So that's they people count on me for that.
Well, that's good, because we have to come together and then put all that great madness of thought we have into one thing, like one sheet of paper, and say this is what we're trying to demand. As a leader or a person that moves the way you do, how do you feel being a leader? How do you feel you are going to be a leader? Should, you know, this new election that's coming up, should things go out in a blessed way, like, how do you feel your leadership role is going to truly impact the history that you've been living through?
Well, I'll say again, I'm in this race because the community tapped me and asked me to run. And, you know, various members of the community. So I'm going to govern in those spaces the way that I live now. And that's co-governance. So right now we have too many people that get elected and then they go behind closed doors, and the conversations they're having is not with the people who elected them. It's with their peers. And you're not there to represent your peers. They represent a different district. You're there to make sure that you understand whatever it is that you're advocating for, it's because the people in your district want that or need that. So I think a lot of times people think it's too difficult to, oh, how do I get to this person? How do I please everybody? And that's why we have to elect people who already have a relationship in the community. Because as I say, when people get elected, they don't magically get the help gene. If they weren't helping you before and you add, a shot of power, well, they're not coming, they're not going to start coming to say, oh, now what do you want? It doesn't work that way. No. And too often when we see our legislators, the decision has already been made. So it's just a show. So I want to make sure that even our young kids have an opportunity to, why can't they do internships? Why can't we make sure they're getting an opportunity to go to DC and see how things work? Because for me, this is about opening this door and making sure that the next generation can see themselves doing what Rhonda Powell does.
I like that. Rhonda, when a person looks at you, you can't help but notice ethnicity. But then you can't help but notice it's like you're in a fight and ethnicity is the holding back factor. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about some of the challenges that you've been facing as a woman, and then just being a Black woman in this position, because you are of age, so you come from a clear understanding of the history that America has.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm really wanting to know, why do you feel, or why do you think that these people feel like that you can come in and make a difference when on the outside looking in, it's like, how many times we gonna keep trying to fight like this where we always end up losing like this? Mm-hmm. And it leads me to ask, like, as a woman, because these were men losing. Yeah. Help me make it make sense, because it's almost like what you're trying to do. It's like they keep trying to say they keep dangling that carrot. Mm-hmm. And now we have Rhonda Powell here. Why should we be so gun-ho into believing that you have a shot or a chance? Mm-hmm. That is my phone, isn't it?
I don't think so. It's in the kitchen.
That thing, I can hear it like crazy. My bad, y'all. But why should the people believe in that who don't come from this Mount Clemens area? Yeah. Because you said there's a lot of in this district. These people here have no clue or idea. They said 78% of the people that put in for the ballot had no clue who you were or no real opinion about you. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that I don't like polls because, you can cherry pick who you poll, and you can get a poll to say whatever you want based on who you cherry pick to respond. So I don't listen to what people say. I watch what they do. And what I've seen happen is people know that I'm a threat, because in 2022 was the first time that I ran for this same seat. I had never run for any office before, but it was the community who tapped me and said, we need you in this space. And when I ran, everybody counted me out. Oh, she can't raise enough money. She's not well known enough. But out of the 5 candidates that ran, I came in as runner-up to the Democratic nominee. So we beat out sitting elected officials. And clearly that scared a whole lot of people, because this time when I decided to run, then our petition process, and let me make sure I'm bringing everybody along with me. In order to run for Congress, you have to have at least 1,000 valid signatures from registered voters across the district that are that folks that sign the petition.
I read that they were accounts that stated that you submitted what you submitted, but what came back to it was a determination of, say, about 100 or so votes less.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty tight number
It is.
when you talk about the minimum. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, our petitions were sabotaged. You know, there was a firm that we used, and I later learned that this individual reached out to me, Adam Hollier, in the 13th Congressional District, and Attorney Charles Longstreet, who was running for Circuit Court Judge in Detroit, an open seat. All of us were the front-running Black candidates in our respective races. And when we went through our process, we had no problem. I'm pretty sure I was removed from this process this time, so that before we all managed it internally in the campaign. But this time we contracted that service out so that we could focus on being a candidate and doing, getting the word out and that. But when all three of our petitions, this person, when it was time to turn them in, pretty much just ghosted us. So even though we collected probably close to 1,600 signatures, when it was time to turn them in, he showed up with about not even 1,200 signatures.
So let me say this to you people. It's just like a movie, it's just like something that you would write in a script. Here you have someone who goes out and supersedes the minimum. And then the forces maybe that are against the plot, in the movie, where that person that is planted in position to accept or make the change, to make it oblivious to the masses. That sounds like what you were dealing with here. It's like you weren't in the favor of an outside resource to do the numbers crunching on this. Or it takes you in the feeling of when we had an election for the president, all of a sudden this one's had more votes than the other, they had are you blind to this?
Absolutely not. No, I don't. We have entirely too many folks in office that owe people other than the ones who vote them in. And what everybody understands about Rhonda Powell is I don't have a price tag. I am in this because the community, it's time for representation, and it is time to make sure that we have equitable resources to all of the communities and not going just targeted to the people who donated to your campaign. It's too much of that going on. And that is what turns off our younger people, some older people, because then people say, well, nothing changes, so why should I vote?
Yeah, that's heavy. I've been one of those young people that now I've gotten older and now you realize you probably should have got out there, but check it out, folks. We're going to take a quick moment, man, tap in with some of the people over there on our frequency. Y'all stay locked in with me and Miss Rhonda Powell. It's your man's Ray Bands, that nerd from the Burb. We'll be right back.
We need resources at an early age. We have to make sure that there is funding in schools. I want people to know that I am a champion for affordable housing, that is a major issue that has so many of our families trapped. If we can deal with affordable housing, then that affects education. It affects entrepreneurship.
We're back. It's me, your man's Ray Bands, that nerd from the Burb. Shout out to everybody who's watching. If you haven't already, make sure you go over to our website, owradio247.com, and install our app. We have a frequency that we want people to be able to, pull up whenever they're ready for it. Check out some of the news and updates. And if you haven't already, go to Instagram. You can follow us at OurWAY Radio, or you can definitely tap in with us at Zone Talk Our Way. That's where our prominent content is at, and all the other social media platforms, but that's where we thrive. Miss Powell, how you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good. We've been chopping it up here for a minute, but now I want to kind of really find out about the things that are really at hand here. This town, this area, is cool, right? But the position that you're trying to get folks involved into, making sure that you have representation for, isn't just about Mount Clemens or the area you come from.
Right.
So what do you say to those people who have never been in Mount Clemens, never lived out there, and truthfully be told, just like someone could ask us, what do you think about deep over there in Utica or deep over there? You're going to be like, I don't care. I don't know. I don't have anything going on over there.
Right.
So to those people who are outside of the Mount Clemens, Clinton Township city limits, what can you tell them about you and that what are you needing from them in this day and time? Because we got elections coming up 2 weeks,
About 3
August
weeks.
6th.
Yeah.
So this area that you come from doesn't make up enough people to even get you where you're going.
Right.
So let's talk to the people. Tell the people who are out there sitting out where all the farmland is at and all that, why they need to be involved with the Rhonda Powell campaign. And I'm not talking about what you've been saying. I'm talking about these people out here, they don't care.
Right. Right.
So what are you needing to say to them? Because they the ones who needs to be out of the polls. They the ones who need to consider that you're from a town like such and that you here to take what energy you have and bring it into them. But I don't know, are these people, do you think that those people that reside in those counties or towns really give a crap at all about anything that's going on over here and could care less? Do you feel strongly that way? Like, what do you tell them?
I believe that people do care. I think people get frustrated not knowing how to move the wheels of change. And we are getting so many messages that, oh, your vote doesn't count. What I do doesn't matter. Nobody cares about me. And we're seeing that. I mean, when you see that, again, the roads on your street haven't changed. And I'm not just talking about Mount Clemens. When you see what normally happens is where there's a shift, a demographic shift, magically the resources slow down. And things start to, and now what was a thriving neighborhood, you see houses that are vacant, overgrown lots and things like that. Even in our rural communities, our more rural communities, there's not a whole lot of investment there until somebody comes in and wants to buy up the farm that your family has struggled to keep for years. So there is not a city or township, village in Macomb County that I haven't served already.
Right on. Well, with that tenor and that understanding, does the county have the county been meeting some of their obligations that go into what minimum is necessary for disadvantaged areas or communities around here? Because it's sounding like that's what's constantly overlooked throughout America, which you get. But in these disadvantaged communities, having representation in these positions, I get that we need, right? But what do you need from the people to support where you're going and where you're trying to get? Because again, you're knowing that we feel sometimes where our vote doesn't count, there ain't nothing changing. So aside from us getting out to the poll, what do you need people that are in the demographic or the age range, say, really you gotta say 18 because that's when you need to vote. What do you need the most out of everyone to support in your campaign and your efforts? What are you asking the people?
The first thing I want people to do is to trust what you're seeing. Trust what you're seeing, and in the same way that I'm in this race, I don't feel like I'm fighting this battle alone. I always say we, because that is the way that I approach things. And it's important for people to know that's the only way we get through here is together. So it is a challenge, no question, to approach these issues that come up. It can be overwhelming. Where I said earlier, someone will reach out to me about an issue in their school. That's what I want people to do, is understand that you're not fighting by yourself. And the more we unite, because all of these challenges, if you notice what it has done, especially since COVID, is make us all retreat to our neutral spaces. It's hard for us to come out and be among each other and sometimes when we do, confusion breaks out because we're socially isolated. And when I worked with seniors, there was a statistic that we used to share about seniors. Social isolation for seniors has the health impact on them of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
I could
Yeah.
understand where it comes from.
So now, what we never considered during COVID is what does social isolation do to all of us? We were focused on seniors. The seniors often, if you can't get out, you're dependent on someone else. But what has it done to all of us collectively, this social isolation? And because everybody hasn't come back out since COVID. So we share this space together. Nobody owns their own city, you know what I mean? So we have to, these voices of division that constantly tell us to work against each other, to fight each other, well, what would happen? And that's what I challenge people to consider. What would happen if we did work together? What could we accomplish? Aren't you just curious to know what we could do if we all came together and demanded better representation, demanded someone show up for us and not just a bunch of wealthy people? How many times you gonna tear up the same street and, while I ride over potholes? So that is the thing for me, is we gotta get back to a we. And I don't just mean we as Black people, brown people, I mean the we, all of us, none of us are getting the best of our government. The small business investments, where's the economic investment for small business owners that we already know is the economic engine for any economy?
Because I know you have a short period of time. I know we're not going to keep it too long. Talk about the business that's decreased in value in this town. You talk about investments and being able to have monies put into things that stimulate this economy around here, but what are some of the things that you've noticed about businesses that aren't in this area no more? There's been a huge change in dynamics of downtown. That old Farmer Jackson we talk about is not Farmer Jackson, but it has a new face to it. On top of that, you think about the things that are surrounding, because I want to touch in on this other industry that's kind of coming around here. I noticed that fireworks last year, that it was sponsored by something that I never would have thought. So my question I want to get onto is, how is the role that you're playing? How is the impact of your decisions and having you in the office position? How does opportunity reach the businesses like? Obviously, they were able to come out here and just display with no problems, but how does a person in positions help businesses like you, or businesses that are in here that's private? Because they're going to be ones coming after you too. They feel they have the money, they can give you some financial backing. When people put that money into you, do you feel obligated to do as they say, to put their business interests forward? Or, in your words, what are you going to plan to do for the people who are small like that? Because their concerns haven't changed either.
Let me answer your question. No, I don't feel obligated to. I feel obligated to do exactly what I promised to do, and that is to make sure that resources are equitably distributed. People with $1 million don't need another 2 million, while the ones with nothing, that's trying to start a business from my savings account or out of my basement. No. Where's the equity in that? So I believe that for me, making sure that that's how, you've heard the saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Where's the rising tide for so many of our low-income community? It doesn't come. It doesn't come, right? So what we have to do is the resources that are in, that we have our congressional representatives have access to, once we're in there and people start to see what we could have been getting all along, they will never accept anything less again. Because our local businesses, right now you mentioned the industries that are up and coming. I mean, marijuana retail and cannabis is everywhere. But I'm down with that. But at the same time, where's the legislation to make sure that those opportunities are equitable? Because it's Black and brown people in large part that are locked up still for that. And now we're seeing everybody else get money, and opportunities to start retail businesses in our communities.
That's a hurtful feeling, if you ask me, man. Because I've never in my day would have ever imagined a dispensary right there behind a county building and in front of a community that I resided in like that. It's like a big smack. Here you guys go.
Exactly.
I don't want you to get too teetered off into that because we can go on and on, and we're getting busy over here too. But I want you to leave us with your most thoughtful words here and your final thoughts here on the campaign. And then before we go, I want you to make sure you let everybody know what they need to do at these elections.
Yes.
and how the process is going to work in order to see you here. But give me your final thoughts. I had wanted to mention some of those things about the things that happened over 2 years, but I think we can read that on it. Right? Let the people world know what they need to know from Rhonda. In your final words, coming up election, what is Rhonda, or who is Rhonda Powell in your final words?
Thank you. Well, I'm still the Rhonda Powell, that served this community through homeless shelters, through, this year we had the 6th annual Macomb Celebration of Black Excellence. It's an event that we created through Metro Equity Collaborative because, again, it's about equity. Everybody deserves a voice and to be seen. And that's what we did to make sure that the lasting contributions of the historic Black communities in Macomb County, which no one spoke about, was being recognized. Those are the kind of things that are important to me. Our early Head Start, our early childhood education programs like Head Start. We've got to take care of the next generation. We can't be so fixated on creating, keeping the next millionaire happy that we're not even putting ourselves in a good place for retirement, because somebody else is going to do this work at some point, and we're leaving too many people behind. So I'm going to keep working until there's no more us and them, there's just us. So I want folks to know that affordable housing is going down the same road as our prisons. In the public housing complex that I grew up in is now privatized, just like prisons.
What?
Yeah. So when it gets privatized, then that means there are certain things. Yeah, there are certain things that, because the federal government is responsible for doing, like having housing committees, you know what I'm saying? So that you got the community committees that come in and have a say-so about, and these for-profit organizations that come in and run, just like with the prisons, you see things are different. It's the same thing. So we are being sold out and don't even know it.
That part is the serious part. I think I had a conversation with somebody explaining, for one of the people online was speaking about these resources that you were talking about. Folks, they're not going to be here for long. They are saying that the influx of immigration is going to remove you from that resource. And once there is no resources and everybody else has those resources, what is going to be left for people like or look like me and you. And it's sounding like, it's a a fast process of rubbing a people out. And I kind of have that same feeling with, going toward you in this this process. You went in for the ballot. It's like you were a threat, like you said. How do we rub this person out? Now, I can't help but feel her because we have a identical looking thing going on. But in business, that is just that's wrong. And when we're talking about getting people forward or giving people equal opportunity, we scream that all out, but then the reality is I'm gonna say you're 100 shot because this is my guy. And hey, my guy, let's shut that up over there. We ain't trying to hear it. We can put we're tired of that. We're tired of it. And it's been decades and decades and decades. And hopefully this type of meeting here, this type of interview here, Ms. Rhonda Powell, that people start recognizing the change. Seeing someone like myself, I'm normal. I'm from this community. I went to the Clinton Township community, graduated Clintondale, but I'm some of these same people around here. I'm 40 years old, so I get that you are speaking for the future because you're right. What are we going to do when it's time to retire?
Right.
They were talking about Clinton Township having a walkway put in over there at the park. People mad about the money that went into it, but I guess what you ain't thinking about is the later years. When you old, ready to retire, bro, you might need that path to walk around where you ain't all in the mix with all the traffic. It ain't nowhere to go when you over your age. And how do you live long? You need to be able to move around. So you're in that fight. You're in that fight for the longevity of life. And I commend you and appreciate that because even at my age, I still tend to forget that you're gonna get, you
gotta play the long game.
You gotta play the long game. So it's been a pleasure to have you, Miss Rhonda. I would like to continue to follow up on you. I think that there's a place for the type of work that we do and a crew or on a team like you have and that you're building. Should you not make it to this race, to not be elected, what are you gonna do? What's your first action? Are you giving it up, or is it like are you you're done now, or are you gonna still keep finding a way to fight?
Oh yeah, I'm a fighter, and this is the community that I love. Macomb County. We already have multiple nonprofit organizations that we run in across Macomb. Like I mentioned, the annual Macomb Celebration of Black Excellence Gala that we do, civic education through Metro Equity Action Fund. We always support backpack drives and that. But I really believe that people are outraged about what is happening.
And people are going to respond, calling upon people and seeing, oh, wow, that happened to, why are they coming for her? People have been outraged about it. So I want people to go and register. I'm a proponent of telling people to stop giving out all them free votes. Voting is so intimidating to some folks because a lot of people have never done it. And for people who don't vote because they don't know how to vote, I want them to go to our website, writeinrhondapowell.com, follow me on socials, Rhonda Powell, MI, and pretty much all socials, and get in touch with us because we want to talk to you directly. Your voice does matter. And I want people to be curious about what would happen if all of us, if you only showed up and registered to vote and you wrote in my name and filled in the bubble and left, turn in your ballot, you don't have to fill out the entire ballot. If you don't research people, don't vote for them. If they don't show up for you, don't vote for them. Because then you're harming yourself. And I say that to a lot of our older, more seasoned voters too. Stop voting for people who don't show up for us because they take our vote for granted. And that's why our young people don't vote, because they see that, we put them in office and they didn't even do anything for us.
Not one bit.
So when they see that, why would they vote? What would be the incentive for them to vote? So we've got to do a better job of making sure that we're voting not just for ourselves, but for our community, for the next generation. And stop telling young people to wait their turn or whatever. No, the time is now. You don't have to be, 60 years old to lead. They can lead from where they are right now, and we need to make sure they know I am fighting for them. This next generation, we've got to get the door open, get the resources back. I want them to have the same experience. We had summer programs.
Yeah, we did. Lots of them.
Yeah, we had 4-H. There were opportunities to go visit colleges, to do HBCU college fairs and that. Those are the things that this generation deserves, and I want to be able to put that back and let them know, no, we got your back. We got your back. So write in Rhonda Powell, the 10th Congressional District, fill in that bubble. You can go home after that, turn it in. Look up the people. Look, vote your own interests, because that's what everybody else is doing.
I like that.
Vote your own interests.
I like that. Well, Miss Rhonda Powell, before we slide out of here, you got any shout outs to anybody significant you want to holler at or give them a little love?
Yes, indeed. I definitely want to shout out Mr. Twan D.
Real stuff, man.
Yeah,
shout
absolutely. I appreciate him. And please check out YouTube or Apple Music, Spotify. He has released a song for me. It is straight fire, if I may say so myself.
I got a chance to hear it.
But it's Clemtown Rhonda Powell. And so I'm appreciating that. I always need to shout out my family that put up with me. But we're going to get this done this year. And on August 6th, we're going to get this done. And we're going to keep fighting. We're going to fight until we don't need to anymore.
There it is. You guys heard it, man. We're here over at Gus's or Gumbo's food spot. I don't know what they call it besides Gumbo's, but we're downtown Mount Clemens. If you haven't been to the area in a while, man, come on down. Look up Miss Rhonda Powell. I'm sure she's not hard to find. You can find her in the local neighborhoods. Just ask around town. And if you're in Gumbo's, just ask them. They know her well. Again, Miss Rhonda, I appreciate everything. I'm gonna do my due diligence to, make sure that the company is very delicate with this.
Thank you.
But we are wishing you the best, and we hope that you are able to thrive in your lane and get where you're going, because representation is important. No matter how you look at it, it's important for us to see someone that looks like us in a position where change can be made. So thank you. I appreciate it. And to all our viewers, make sure that you are sharing this with family and friends, and let them know that if you want Rhonda Powell in the office, we've got to write her in. That means you go to the poll, you use the pencil, and you write Rhonda's name inside. Okay? That's going to help out a lot. So let's do our part for change and representation. It's your man's Ray Bans, that nerd from the bird. What you think? It's all right?
Absolutely.
I think so too. She gave us the okay, guys. So we'll see you guys in the future, man. Keep it locked, man. It's our way or no way.
We gon' scream it the loudest.